Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the fourth episode of the story in which a terrifying situation pushes Naruto to unleash something the ninja world has never seen before. Naruto now holds a position of enormous power. What is a troublemaker to do when he has the ability to appear wherever he wants? Please hit the subscribe and like buttons. Let's get this party started. The sun wasn't even up when Naruto awoke. He walked around his small apartment and up to the only window in the place. He leaned against the cold seal and crossed his arms as he watched the village come to life slowly. It was finally here. The final exam and the chance he was training for. He was going to make Neji pay for what he did to his Hinata. Naruto smirked to himself as he looked at the occupants of his house. Hokage returned home the other day with a plastered smirk that still hasn't left her face, and her father grumbled the entire time about killing a bug. Naruto looked over at Zabuza, who walked up to him and leaned on the other side of the window. He looked down at the young blonde and nodded slightly. "You know," Zabuza said as he looked out the window, "there isn't a lot to fear in this world." "You fear something?" Naruto asked with a slight grin. That earned a slap across the back of his head. "But the one thing that all ninjas should fear," Zabuza said as he turned to Naruto, "is a pissed-off Jinchuriki, with a score to settle." Naruto turned to the older man as he gave him the slightest eye smile and turned back to the window. Naruto nodded to himself as he turned back to the window, all nerves gone from his system. Hokage walked up behind them and gave Naruto a slight nudge. Naruto turned to her and she gave him a reassuring nod. "I have to go and wish luck to Shino," she said softly, causing the elder ninja to reach of his sword and mumble a stream of curses. Hokage laughed it off and exited. "I too have to see someone," Zabuza said as he turned to leave. "Remember, there are other ways to hurt someone than just killing. Though I don't normally prefer doing it that way." Naruto bamfed to the old training grounds and sat down next to one of the training logs. He smirked as he remembered, as if it was only yesterday, using Hinata's plan to beat Kakashi in the bell test. Teaching Ko how to do his perverted jutsu. He was pulled from his daydreams by a hand that landed on his shoulder. He looked up to see Hinata smiling down at him. Naruto grabbed her hand and pulled her into his lap, which caused her to blush. She snuggled into his bare chest as he wrapped his arms around her. "You won't kill him, right?" Hinata asked after a second. Naruto let out a low growl that could go either way, causing Hinata to lean back and stare into his eyes. Naruto sighed in defeated. "I will bring him to the brink of death, then pull him back," Naruto said with a slight smirk. Hinata punched him in his side. "Hey, calm down, you can't be getting all worked up. You do that to me," she said angrily as he raised his eyebrows. "Oh," Naruto said as he leaned down and lightly kissed her neck. She gasped slightly and squirmed a bit in his arms. Naruto laughed lightly as he slowly placed another kiss higher up on her neck. "I work you all up inside, huh? Damn you," she said hotly as she broke out of his grip and stood up. Face was completely flushed and she huffed. "You are trying to kill me." "Who, me?" Naruto asked as he stood and wrapped her in a hug. "Just trying to get my inspiration for the day. Now I'm ready to take on anyone. Just don't hurt him too bad," Hinata said as she pulled him into a tighter hug. "And you better not get hurt yourself." "Can't promise anything," Naruto said as he placed a single kiss on her forehead. There was a slight coughing fit and Kiba appeared behind one of the training poles. "If you guys are done being all lovey-dovey," Kiba said with a slight grin, "I will be escorting Hinata to the stadium." "You got Dog Boy as your escort," Naruto said with a smirk, casuing Kiba to grind his teeth. "I wouldn't want anyone else protecting you if something was to happen." Kiba said as looked a bit confused. "What do you mean? You guys do realize that Orochimaru wouldn't just show up for no reason," Naruto said as he looked at the two of them. "I've been a bit apprehensive about the entire situation. I just don't like it." "You think something is going to happen?" Hinata said as she gripped her tanto. "I'd just rather us be prepared," Naruto said. "I'm going to count on you guys to relay the message while I keep everyone entertained with the first match. Kiba, if something does happen, I need you to get Hinata back to the compound. Don't let anything happen to her." "You have my word," Kiba said as Shikamaru barked in agreement. "Naru-kun," Hinata said as she gained his attention. "Good luck out there." "Thanks," Naruto said as he gave her a kiss and started to walk towards the arena. "You're late," yelled the sick Jonin as Naruto appeared in the middle of the arena, shocking the crowd. Naruto looked around, ignoring the glare from Hinata's part-time sensei. Naruto looked at the other contestants and smirked. Shikamaru was standing off to the side, staying as close to UTR as possible. All three of the Sanjunin were there staring at Naruto. Shino was off to the side shaking his head at Naruto. Sasuke was sulking in the middle with his arms crossed. Then Naruto's eyes narrowed. Neji was standing almost opposite of him. No, I arrived precisely when I intended to, Naruto said as he looked at Hayate with a smirk. So in my mind I'm right on time. Shut up, idiot, Sasuke said with a huff. Since all the contestants are here, Hayate said with a slight cough. Let's begin. Neji Hyuga vs Naruto Uzumaki. The crowd went into an uproar. The games have finally begun and Naruto was feasting off of the energy of the crowd. Naruto looked over at Hayate as he told the other contestants to go to the observation deck, which they all jumped, leaving just Naruto and Neji in the arena. Naruto smirked as he walked slowly over to center of the arena. Naruto cracked his neck as he stared down Neji, who looked back at him coldly. Hayate was talking but neither was paying attention. Begin. Hayate finished his speech and started the fight. You ready to fail just like the other? Neji said, taking up his clan stance, activating his bloodline. Naruto just stuffed one hand in his pocket while he brought out his book and flipped a page. Neji's eyes twitched a bit. Are you taking this seriously? Huh? Naruto said as he looked over at him. You say something? Up in the crowd almost everyone face-palmed while Kakashi just turned a page in his book with a smirk. You're a joke, Neji said as he stood straight. Fine, if you won't take this serious then I will end this quickly. Neji charged forward with a burst of speed, causing the crowd to gasp. Naruto just flipped a page in his book, then proceeded to explode in a flash of light. Neji was blinded by the flash and stopped his attack to protect his precious eyes. Neji felt a bone-crushing punch to the side of his head and he was launched towards the other side of the arena. After the smoke formed, the flashbang clone settled. The crowd was staring at an angry Hyuga who was picking himself up off the wall while Naruto flipped another page in his book with a perverted giggle. That's your boyfriend, Ino giggled to Hinata, who was fuming at Naruto's antics. Soon-to-be-dead boyfriend, Hinata seethed, causing Shikamaru, who was reading his book, off to the side to slowly put it away. Neji stood to his full height and took off towards Naruto again. Naruto ducked under another strike and jumped back from Neji's close-range fighting. Naruto smirked as he saw the anger in Neji's eyes when he flipped another page. Neji was close to snapping and that's when he was going to unleash his plan. Naruto flipped a page in the book again and looked up at Neji. You still here? Naruto asked as he gave him a quick smile. Neji just calmed himself and Naruto's eyes widened a bit. Yet again his plot was discovered. I will not be angered by your erratic behavior, Neji said as he breathed out slowly to calm himself even more. I'm a true shinobi, unlike you. I guess it's fitting, really. What are you talking about now? Naruto said with a huff as he put his book away in his vest. That trash should flock together, Neji said with a slight glint in his eye. Naruto bared his teeth and assumed his unorthodox stance. You can say whatever you want about me, Naruto said calmly. Naruto slowly started to turn from his bright blue to the deep pools of mercury. But if you ever say something bad about Hinata, I will be forced to make you eat those words. Two losers, Neji pushed. Found love. How, truly fitting. You had your chance, Naruto said as he slowly disappeared in a wisp clone. Neji's eyes widened as he spun to strike behind him. Naruto caught Neji's juken that was aimed for his head. Naruto's clone blew up in a flash of light, causing Neji to cry out in pain as he rubbed his eyes. Naruto then bamfed in a circle around Neji, leaving a flashbang clone at each stop. He jumped back and detonated all of them at once. Neji deactivated his bloodline right before and shielded his eyes. Naruto smirked as the smoke settled and Neji stood there with bleeding ears yelling profanities at Naruto. Naruto put a hand up to his ear as if saying he couldn't hear him. Naruto then turned to the uproar of the crowd that was cheering for the fighting to continue. Are you not entertained? Naruto yelled as he held out his arms and walked in a circle. Neji took that as an opportunity to attack and charged forward. Neji's balance was off from the damage done to the inside of his ears, but he corrected it the best he could in his sprint. Naruto was struck in the middle of his back, which should have been a kill shot. Naruto spun and gripped Neji's arm in a bone-crushing hold. I was told not to kill you, Naruto said darkly from behind Neji. Neji looked behind him and noticed Naruto was standing there with his book out again. You don't deserve her mercy. What? Neji said, his eyes going wide as Naruto took out a kuni and held it like a detonator. You forgot one thing about me, I'm the bomb, Naruto said, his old self showing again. Deet. The explosion that followed launched the Hyuga across the arena and about a foot into the concrete wall. Neji was beyond shocked as he slowly leaned up. His entire right arm was shattered and burned. His chest had several lacerations and bleeding. He couldn't believe what was going on. He was fated to beat the dead last, the loser, the trash. How was he, the Hyuga prodigy, on his back bleeding? Neji slowly pulled himself out of the wall and stared at the blonde, the one who not only defied fate, but laughed squarely in its face. Naruto nodded to Neji, who had a different look in his eyes. "You with your all-seeing eyes," Naruto said as he slowly walked towards the shaking Hyuga. "Can now see. Too bad I'm not done with you yet. You still hurt Hinata him? And that's something that cannot go unpunished." Neji gulped a bit as he activated his bloodline again. Pain was searing his entire body, but maybe he could just fight on. He was answered with a bone-crushing punch that came from the side, launching him into the waiting arms of another clone. Neji tried to strike the clone, but only his left arm working. He was easily dodged. Naruto's clone kicked Neji into the air, where Naruto appeared above him with 3 clones. "This shouldn't kill you," Naruto said as all 3 clones started to glow. "But it will make sure that stick in your ass will be removed permanently." The explosion that followed launched Neji into the ground faster than any punch or kick could. Neji bounced off the ground with sickening crunch. Coughing blood onto himself, he looked up to see Naruto descending to the arena with the sun shining brightly behind him. Naruto landed across from him and crossed his arms. "Good you're still alive," Naruto said as he looked up to the stands, finding Hinata's eyes. "Neji, you can't live your life being controlled by fate. You will have to fight for what you believe in. And if you need help, I will be there for you. Winner Naruto Uzumaki." Hayate coughed out. The crowd went crazy and Naruto turned away from the bleeding and beaten Hyuga to bask in the glory. "The kid loves to show off," Kakashi said as Guy was laughing at his side. "He's basking in all the glory of the youth," Guy yelled out, causing Naruto to give the nice guy pose. Naruto arrived at the observation deck and was met with several congratulations. Naruto looked over at Sasuke, who was deactivating his bloodline, and shook with rage. He was unable to copy the techniques and it was becoming increasingly frustrating. Shino and Shikamaru were leaning over the edge of the balcony looking down at the blonde girl waiting for the next contestant. "Shikamaru, you're up," Naruto said as he clapped a hand on his back. Shikamaru just sighed as he raised his hand to call the match. Naruto smirked as he pushed harder and Shikamaru flipped over the edge and landed on his back in the middle of the arena. "Go kick ass, Shikamaru." "Troublesome blondes," Shikamaru said as he got up and stared down the blonde bombshell in front of him. He let out a sigh and stood. "At least the scenery is nice." "What did you say?" yelled Temari as she pulled out her fan. Hayate called the fight and the Temari took her battle stance. "Ugh," Shikamaru said as he pulled out his book. "Troublesome blondes. Is this a strategy for Ulko Onna Shinobi?" yelled Temari as she watched Shikamaru turn a page slowly in his book. "Nah," Shikamaru said as he looked up from his book. "I was just buying time." "What?" yelled Temari as she looked down and noticed a shadow connected to hers. She felt a weird sensation as if she couldn't control anything. "Now," Shikamaru said as he snapped his book shut and put it away. Temari copying every move. "Hayate, as much fun as it's been. I quit." With that, the entire crowd booed and started to throw garbage at the shadow user, who seemed perfectly content at staying as Jinanya's entire carrier. Shikamaru released his hold on Temari to see her shaking with rage. She pulled her fan back and chased after the boy that was just walking causal as ever back to the observation deck. She cornered him in the hallway and pinned him against the wall with her arm. Shikamaru just looked down at her with a raised eyebrow. "What?" Shikamaru asked with a small smirk. "I want a rematch," Temari demanded, staring into his brown eyes. "You won," Shikamaru said as he moved her arm away from his throat and spun them around so he pressed her against the wall. "You guys don't have to do this." "What?" she asked, her eyes betraying her. Shikamaru smirked as he stood back and walked away. "You don't have to follow them," he said softly. "Don't worry, I just figured it out. But don't think I won't defend my village with my life, or taking a few." With that, he walked back to the observation deck and over to Naruto and Shino, who both gave him knowing nods. After hearing what Kiba told him, Shikamaru came up with over 200 different attacks and everything pointed to the Sand team. For some reason Gaara was the key, and if they were going to do something about it, they would all need to keep their chakra reserves up. Naruto looked over to Shikamaru, who made a quick nod and leaned forward. "We are all ready," Shikamaru said as he looked down at the arena. Gaara and Sasuke were standing off against each other. Apparently the Jonin already were up to something. Kakashi just gave me a nod and walked off. "Okay," Naruto said as he watched Sasuke get tossed around by Gaara's sand. "He's a Jinchuriki." "What?" Shikamaru hissed. Naruto pointed to Gaara and then the puzzle finally came together. "Jinchuriki. It makes sense now." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked as he looked at him crossly. "He is the main distraction," Shikamaru said as he rubbed his temples. "Orochimaru is going after Sasuke. Not for Sasuke himself, but I feel he wants his eyes. And you forget that he promised to burn Konoha to the ground," Shino piped in. He might be planning on taking us out and Sasuke is just an added bonus. True, Shikamaru said as his eyes shut. He assumed his thinking state. Naruto, Shikamaru said as he looked at him gravely. I'm afraid we have to ask you to take him out. If things go down the wrong path we need to get Gaara out of the village and into the forest, Shino said. You'll be able to slug it out there safely. Naruto said as he focused his cold eyes on Gaara. Gaara was struck by Sasuke causing him to bleed from his shoulder. Gaara's eyes went dark and a manic laughing was heard. It's starting, Shino said as feathers fell from the sky and the entire arena fell asleep. Naruto shook off the genjutsu with the help of a quick slap from Shikamaru. Naruto turned and looked at his friends. The sand team jumped out and grabbed their brother and escaped the arena. Naruto cursed as he noticed numerous sound and sand ninja jumping from the crowd attacking the leaf nin. Naruto turned to Shikamaru. Shikamaru, Naruto said as he watched Shino wake up the few that fell asleep. Shikamaru tossed a kuni into an enemy sand nin that tried to jump into the observation deck. Sakura and Ino appeared at the observation deck and they grouped around them. You're in charge. Everyone, listen to what he says till you meet up with a Jonin. Keep them safe Shikamaru. We may have a problem, Shikamaru said as he pointed to the arena. Sasuke took off after the Sand siblings. The dolt will get himself killed. I won't be able to attack and protect, Naruto said as he noticed Kiba escorting Hinata out of the arena with Shikamaru close behind. He sighed in relief as turned to the others. We will go with you, Shikamaru said as he looked at the others. Shino take point. Choji and Ino, you follow behind us at a slower pace. If we get ambushed we need you to take them out. Let's roll, Naruto said as he took off. Naruto turned to the Hokage booth to see a giant purple barrier erupt around it. Naruto stopped for a second and motioned to Shikamaru who looked inside. The barrier was keeping the Anbu from entering to protect the Hokage. Shikamaru shifted his gaze to Kakashi, who was on the other side of the arena fighting alongside Guy. Naruto, Shikamaru started. We will continue on and try to stall Gaara. You need to get Kakashi and Guy inside to protect the Hokage. You might be the only one who can. Right, Naruto said as his eyes glazed over and he disappeared. Shikamaru and the others took off at breakneck speed to make up for lost time. Oh that's 15 for me, yelled Guy as a sand nin was kicked through a wall. Kakashi stabbed a sound nin in the neck and looked back at Guy with an eye smile. 17, Kakashi said simply. Guy was about to retort when Naruto appeared between them. Naruto? Neesons, Naruto said as he looked at both of his elder brothers. Shikamaru thinks I'm the only one who can get people beyond the barrier. Seems logical, Kakashi said as he looked up at the barrier as Guy snapped another knee's neck with a roundhouse kick. 16, yelled Guy in the background. I will start with you Kakashi, Naruto said as he grabbed Kakashi by the shoulder. Kakashi sighed mumbling about going to lose to Guy, but didn't fight it. They appeared inside of the barrier and looked around. Kakashi found the Hokage fighting with Orochimaru in the middle and took off to assist. Naruto bamfed away and appeared back to see Guy smash two nins into the wall. Ha, Guy said as he landed and gave the nice guy poise. 19. They bamfed away and landed in the middle of the barrier again. Naruto fell to the floor panting heavily, but didn't have time to breathe as he dodged a water jutsu that was launched at him. Naruto looked up to see Kakashi fighting off Orochimaru and another fighter, while the Hokage was resting on one knee. The other fighter seemed a bit decayed, but his face looked like one from the Hokage monument. Naruto watched in disbelief as the man easily trumped Kakashi and tossed him to the side. That was when Naruto figured out who it was, the Nidaime Hokage. Naruto turned to Gigi with wide eyes. Hokage Gigi turned and tossed what could only be a body towards Naruto who caught it and fell to the ground. Naruto-kun. The Hokage said in a demanding voice. I thank you for the help. Now get her out of here. She was going to be used for a sick jutsu to revive the dead. I was able to stop one as was Kakashi. Naruto, Guy said with a rare serious tone. Get her out of here and go stop that monster. You are the only one who can. I figured as much, Naruto said as he tossed the unconscious girl, Kin was her name, over his shoulder and turned to the others. Kick his ass. Plan on it, Kakashi said as he stood up and the Hokage landed between him and Guy. Guy gave a slight grin and the Hokage had a fire in his eyes that hasn't been seen in years. Naruto bamfed away, leaving the three. You guys take my mentor, the Hokage said as he stared down Orochimaru. I will take this snake, and write what I have done. You will try, Orochimaru said as he got into his stance. Shikamaru, Shino hissed as they continued their search for Gaara. We are being followed. Damn, Shikamaru said as he looked at what he had with him. Ino and Choji were following from a distance, leaving him with Sakura, Shino, and himself. Not enough to set up an ambush and continue and keep Gaara at bay. Shikamaru stopped abruptly and turned towards the others. "I'm the only one that can capture them and hold them long enough for you guys to stop Sasuke," Shikamaru said as he sighed. Shino adjusted his glasses as Sakura gasped. "You can't," Sakura hissed as she turned to him. "How many, Shino?" Shikamaru asked as he turned to him. Shino put a hand to his chin for a moment, then answered. 8, he answered. "You will not be able to hold them off long enough." "That's where we come in," said a voice from behind them. Shikamaru turned to see Haku walking around a tree with a man who had a massive sword on his back. "Shino-kun, you're all right," Haku said as she jumped forward into him. Shino nodded and hugged her back as the man with the sword leaked out some killer intent. "We can hold them off," said the man as he grumbled something about killing the bug later. "You guys go on ahead. We saw that spoiled brat pass by not long ago." "Thank you, Zabuzakin," Sakura said, causing the man to cringe in rage. Turning slowly, he saw that she had already left with a giggle. "I will kill her as well," Zabuza said as he turned and jumped towards the tracker team that was closing in. "Be safe, Shino," Haku whispered into Shino's ear as he placed a quick kiss on her cheek. He smirked and jumped off after Sakura with Shikamaru on his heels. "I need to blow off some steam," Zabuza said as he activated his mist jutsu. The tracker nin stopped and looked around as the unnatural mist filled the area. "And I know just the way." Screams caught up to the group as they sped towards On-the-Sand siblings, who were in defensive positions before them. Temari and Kankuro turned around to meet them with a strange look in their eyes. Shikamaru stepped forward and raised a kunai which Kankuro mimicked. "Where is he?" Shikamaru asked as the others took up defensive positions. "If you think you will harm my brother, you are mistaken," Temari answered as she removed her fan. "You can't, not when he's like this. No one can hurt him," Kankuro said as a loud scream was heard and several crashing sounds followed. They looked down to see Sasuke was launched into a tree that wasn't too far from them and landed with a sickening thud. Shikamaru looked down at the broke heap and sighed. "Sakura," Shikamaru said as he turned his gaze back to the Sand siblings. "Check on your teammate. We will deal with Gaara." "We cannot allow you," Temari yelled. "Can't you see? It's for your own good. We have to try and stall him," Shino said as he took a step forward only to jump back as a puppet attacked him from above. "Fine, I will take this one." "And I the other," Shikamaru said as he jumped forward, surprising the wind mistress. Temari reacted by jumping back and blasting a gust of wind towards Shikamaru. The log that Shikamaru swapped with was torn to shreds. Shikamaru reacted quickly by throwing a kunai to move her into range. Shikamaru smirked as she jumped right into his trap. Shikamaru jumped forward with a kick that was blocked by her fan. Temari tried to gain some distance, but Shikamaru kept his attacks at close range. Then Temari was backed straight into a tree and looked around shocked. "You lose," Shikamaru said as he lowered his hands. Their shadows connected. Temari's face was red-hot with anger as she struggled to break free. "You," she yelled as she stared at him dead in the eyes. "Are the most. That's twice now you've lost to me," Shikamaru said and walked towards her. She mirrored his steps. "I wasn't trying," she yelled at him as he stood now a foot apart. He looked down at her and smirked. A small blush dusted her cheeks as he raised his right hand and slowly touched the side of her face, stunning her. Then she felt such sharp pinch in the back of her neck and her world fade to black. "Sure you weren't," Shikamaru said as he looked up at Ino, who was smirking down at him with a devilish smirk. "You will not breathe a word of this." He, Ino started as she landed and took out the needle that she threw into Temari's neck. "Oh, I don't know. This is too good to pass up. You know Choji has been getting fan mail," Shikamaru said as he tossed Temari's body over his shoulder. Ino looked at him with raised eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Ino asked, a bit apprehensive. "Why would Choji get fan mail?" "Oh, the Chunin exams," Shikamaru explained. Akimichi are known throughout the elemental nations. Many women and kunoichi flock to the Chunin exams just to make an attempt at wooing an Akimichi. "Why would they do that?" Ino asked as she looked off to the direction that Choji was helping out in. "Well," Shikamaru said as he jumped off to lay Temari's body in a safe location. "It could be because their kindness is known to be as great as their appetites. Maybe, because they are unbelievably strong, but I know why it really is." "Then why?" Ino asked with a red face. 2 words, Shikamaru said as he took off towards the last place they saw Gaara. "Body expansion." Ino was at a loss of words as her eyes glazed over for a second. Shikamaru smirked as he noticed a rather large blush creep over her face. The flustered Ino didn't speak again as they sped through the forest. "And now it's time for the main event," Shikamaru said as he looked down at Gaara as he turned sharply and focused his attention on them. "Keep up if you can, I can't hold back on this guy. Stay at range attacks only." "Right," Ino said as she jumped back into the trees. Shikamaru turned to Gaara just in time to dodge 6 sand shurikens. Shikamaru skidded to a stop and tossed a couple of kunai towards Gaara. Gaara's sand defense reacted quickly, protecting him from the deadly projectiles. Shikamaru's mind was on overdrive, trying to figure something out. "Sand," Shikamaru said to himself as he dodged another sand thread that was reaching to him hungrily. "Superheated can turn into. I want your blood," screamed a bloodthirsty Gaara as he sent more sand towards Shikamaru. Shikamaru jumped back, launching a barrage of kunai towards Gaara, who protected himself with his monster sand arm. They struck and were absorbed into the sand. Shikamaru smirked as he made the hand sign and detonated the kunai, releasing a fire explosion from within the arm. Gaara let out a roar of pain and jumped back. Looking down at his arm with a curious expression, Gaara made a small hissing noise. Shikamaru smirked down in triumph as he made his next move. "You made mother mad," Gaara said softly as he looked up in time to see Shikamaru closing in. Shikamaru jumped forward with heel strike connecting with the monster arm. Shikamaru stared Gaara dead in the eye as a shower of glass and blood fell to the ground from the monster arm. Gaara's scream filled the area, causing Ino to cringe. Shikamaru jumped back as sand tried to grab him from below. "Glass," Shikamaru said as Gaara stared at the shards on the ground. "Simple physics really. And it's going to be your downfall. You really think that you can defeat me?" Gaara said with a manic grin on his face. Soon the ground around Gaara started to swirl and absorb into his skin. His once broken and bloodied monster arm was now repairing itself. Shikamaru cursed as he dodged another barrage of sand shurikens and landed back on the ground. He couldn't react quickly enough as a sand spike erupted from the ground, stabbing him in the shoulder, sweeping him off his feet. Shikamaru was pushed through the air and pinned against a tree. The sand spike hardened and Gaara appeared before him in a flash. Shikamaru let out a groan of pain. It was just too troublesome to scream. "You hurt mother," Gaara said in a slow voice as sand started to slowly inch towards the Nara. Shikamaru smirked back at Gaara, regaining his composure. "She's kinda a bitch though," Shikamaru said as Ino launched 4 kunai into the sand spike that was pinning him to the wall. The kunai detonated and blew the two apart. Shikamaru was launched across the valley and landed in a heap as Gaara was launched the other direction but was already standing staring down Shikamaru. Ino landed in front of Shikamaru as he slowly picked himself off the ground. Shikamaru took off his burnt vest and tied it around his bleeding shoulder, but winced as he tried to tighten it. Ino twirled her kunai and kept her eyes trained Gaara. Shikamaru stood and put his good hand on her shoulder, causing her to shudder. Her eyes were tearing up a bit, but she took the sign and jumped back into the safety of the trees. "Why do you keep fighting?" Gaara asked as he swayed his now sand tail with a hungry look. "I blame my friend," Shikamaru said as he pulled out a kunai and reversed his grip on it. "He keeps putting these stupid ideas in my head, but hey. What can you do, right? What are you getting at?" Gaara asked as he launched a sand shuriken at Shikamaru, who dodged to the side. "Well, I can't have you killing my friends," Shikamaru said with a casual tone. Then his eyes hardened as he launched the explosive note kunai towards Gaara. "My precious people. That doesn't make you strong," Gaara laughed as the kunai exploded, causing his arm to glass over again. "Only power and fear make you strong." "Oh, I will argue your counterstatement," said a stoic voice from behind Gaara. Shino appeared with his blade in hand, attempting to stab the redhead. He didn't count his sand defense to be that quick. Then the sand latched out and grabbed Shino. Shino exploded in a shower of sand, but no blood erupted from the dust. "That was a bit too close," said Shino's voice as he appeared beside Shikamaru. Shino adjusted his glasses and shouldered his blade. "I hate to say this, but with that sand I'm a bit useless. He took out almost a third of my colony in that last clone. I'm still trying to grasp how none escaped his sand. It's almost as if the sand's only purpose is to kill." "Figures," Shikamaru said as he grasped his shoulder. "How's Choji?" "He's resting," Shino explained. "He took some neurotoxin that seems to have infected him badly. My bugs are extracting it as we speak, but he will not be able to help us at the moment. As long as he's okay," Shikamaru said as Shino stepped in front of him and cut through a pair of sand spikes, severing them. "Let's see what damage we can do. I believe that a good dousing of water should slow his sand," Shino said as he jumped forward, dodging sand spikes and performing a quick arc swipe, severing the 6 that were hunting him down. "There's a stream not too far from our location," Shikamaru said as he checked his supplies. He only had a couple of kunai left and 6 explosive tags. I will be the bait. Just try to protect me from afar. You're no good for me right now. You ready to move? Unwise, Shino said as he took off his kunai pouch and tossed it to Shikamaru, who nodded in thanks. But will do. Be careful. Shikamaru strapped Shino's full pouch to his bat arm and pulled it tight, causing him to wince a bit, but pulled out a pair of kunai. Shikamaru took off towards the river after tossing the kuni into Gaara and detonating them at the same time. Gaara gave a bloodthirsty roar and took off after Shikamaru. Shikamaru smirked back at the raging berserker that was following him through the forest as it smashed trees and anything else that was getting in its way between him and its prey. Shikamaru tossed a couple of kuni into the ground as he ran, detonating them as Gaara crossed over them, blowing him aside. Gaara was back in hot pursuit with a crazier look in his face. I will bathe in your blood. Gaara's voice echoed throughout the forest. Only Shikamaru can make someone so angry, Ino said as she and Shino followed with Temari on Ino's shoulder. And this bitch could lose a few pounds. I heard that, Temari whispered, but she couldn't move. Ino's poison was also a temporary paralyzes poison. Temari wouldn't be able to move for the rest of the day, if not given the antidote. Ino sighed as they followed in the wake of destruction that Gaara left in his path. And he should keep running. He doesn't stand a chance. Oh, I wouldn't be so sure about that, Shino said as he smirked at a bug that just landed on his hand. You'd be surprised how strong you can be when you fight for your loved ones. Someone taught me that, and now I'm beginning to truly understand why he will succeed in his dream one day. It's going to be annoying have him as Hokage one day, isn't? Ino asked with a slight smirk. Yes, Shino said as he took off quicker. But, I won't be dull, and now the true fight begins. What are you guys talking about? Mumbled the captured blonde. Ino looked over at Shino, who had a slight smirk. You're about to see the famed Tiger of Konoha, Shino said as he slowed to a stop with Ino in tow. They watched as Shikamaru dodged the now slower attacks of the almost fully transformed Gaara. And why you should never mess with the will of fire that burns in all Konoha shinobi, but none as brightly as this. You will give mother your blood, Gaara shouted as he launched an air bullet that hit Shikamaru square in the chest. Shikamaru heard the snap of his ribs breaking as he was skipped across the water and landed on the other side of the bank. Shikamaru coughed up blood and slowly picked himself up from the ground. Troublesome, Shikamaru mumbled out. That sucked. You will give me blood, Gaara yelled as he watched from across the small stream as blood slowly trickled from Shikamaru's mouth. Well, Shikamaru said as he held his one good, well, mostly good arm across his chest. Come and get it, you bastard. Not needing a second invitation, Gaara launched himself over the stream and landed next to Shikamaru. Shikamaru didn't even turn to him as Gaara raised his monster claw to cleave the Nara in half, only to realize he couldn't move. Shikamaru smirked to himself as he fell to a knee. Gaara mimicked his actions only to look confused. What did you do to me? Gaara demanded as he watched Shikamaru slowly stand and start to walk into the stream. Gaara followed, reluctantly dousing his feet with the fast current of the stream. The sand was slowly falling apart around him, causing him to widen his visible eye. Gaara started to struggle against the shadow that held him tightly. What's the matter, can't swim? Shikamaru asked as he turned to the struggling Gaara. I won't be able to stop you. I've come to terms with that, but I will be able to slow you down, for when my friend who can stop you comes here we'll have a much easier time. What are you doing? Gaara yelled out as he watched Shikamaru slowly fall back and crashed into the cool water. Gaara mirrored him, dousing his sand, causing Gaara to freak out and released a chakra wave which released him from the shadow. Gaara jumped to the bank and was shaking with anger. Shikamaru slowly stood in the middle of the stream, water and blood dripping from his body. A grim smirk grew over his face as he watched the sand spike shoot towards him and stab him in his other shoulder. He was picked up from the water and brought closer to Gaara, who was growling with anger as sand slowly made its way up Shikamaru's legs. You will give me your blood, Gaara said as some of Shikamaru's blood dropped onto his sand. The sand reacted hungrily towards the wounds, increasing its speed. I'm not done yet, Shikamaru coughed out as blood slowly trickled down from his mouth. With a struggling hand motion he raised a kunai in front of Gaara. Gaara looked at him with confusion. Little trick that my friend taught me. I'm the bomb, Deet. The ground around them exploded, launching the two of them into the air. Shikamaru smirked as he stared at the beautiful sky that was filling his vision and the angry yelling from the monster that was now almost completely covered in glass. Shikamaru did a quick checklist of his injuries. 2 deep stab wounds, broken ribs, bleeding internally, burns to his arms, legs and back, deep cut across his back, and now most more than likely a severe concussion. All this meant was that he didn't die. Well, yet, this fall was going to be a bitch. Troublesome. Shikamaru hit the icy water that felt great against his burnt skin. But the moment of bliss was quickly ruined. "Now you're mine," Gaara said from the crater that was created by the explosive tags he used earlier. Gaara looked to be panting slightly from the fight, and Shikamaru took a bit of pride in the fact he went toe-to-toe with a Jinchuriki and pushed him this far. "Damn," Shikamaru whispered as his body was unable to move. Sand moved around him and quickly pulled him from the water. "I guess I won't be taking orders from you after all, Naruto. Hey, I hope this doesn't suck. Being in pain is too troublesome. I can't let you die yet," said his voice from behind them. "I'm gonna need my advisor when I become Hokage." "Naruto," Shikamaru shouted as he felt a hand on his shoulder. Naruto had bamfed them back to where Shino and Ino were. Coughing up some blood onto him, Shikamaru gave a bloody grin. "I warmed him up a bit for ya." "I see that," Naruto said as he handed the now passed out Shikamaru to Ino. "He needs medical attention now. Get him to Sakura for now and then transfer him to the Hyuga compound. They have a medic team set up there." "Hi." Ino answered with a quick nod and shouldered Shikamaru and took off. Temari watched from her position from the tree with a slight tear in her eyes. She couldn't move or she would have followed. "How could he be so strong?" she whispered. "We fight for each other," Naruto said as he looked at her with an unreadable expression. "That's what gives us the strength that can never be matched. Blood. Now if you can excuse me," Naruto said with a smirk as he turned towards the demon that was thrashing around in the forest looking for his prey. "I have another appointment." "You sure about this?" Shino asked Temari as they jumped away from the battle that was about to begin below them. Temari nodded slowly, the poison slowly subsiding in her body. Shino was carrying her bridal style as they jumped through the trees, just staying in range. "You don't understand," Temari choked out. "If he fully ascends, he will destroy everything. We need to stay out of his path of destruction." "That seems most unpleasant," Shino started. "But I can't la. Shino-kun," came a sickly sweet voice from behind them. Shino stopped moving and slowly turned towards the voice. Ice slowly crept towards them, covering the trees all around them. Shino gulped and dropped Temari on the branch, causing her to curse out in pain. "Is that how you treat all your hostages?" screamed the Sand Princess. "Shut up, bitch," came the voice again as the beautiful Haku appeared around the tree across from them. Temari looked at her with a shock etched over her face. "Shino-kun, please explain." "Haku-chan," Shino stared as he took a step forward, only for Haku to stop him dead in his tracks with 3 ice senbon landing inches in front of him. Shino stopped and gulped a bit before straightening himself out. "I was bringing Temari to a safer location. She has been captured and we don't want her to get killed in the crossfire between her brother and Naruto. I have to carry her, due to Ino's poison that causes temporary paralysis." "Better be," Haku huffed softly as the ice slowly receded. Shino smirked as he jumped across towards her and wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her close. "What exactly have you been learning from Ankaken?" he whispered, causing her to blush and shudder from his closeness. His breath on her ear caused her to heat up a bit, but she was still a bit perturbed from finding her Shino-kun in the forest carrying a girl. She smirked as she turned towards him and gave a predatory smile. "Oh," she started, then her voice fell to a whisper. "You could only dream of what I know now. But I plan on showing you in a very, very long and slow way." Abarames are known throughout the elemental nations as being the stoic, non-affected by surroundings, and all-around killjoys. They couldn't show emotion to save themselves. So, for an Abarame to get a nosebleed from an innuendo was beyond concept thought. It was never heard of till Shino. Shino's face paled and a trickle of blood slowly and surely fell from his nose, causing Haku to smirk in victory. Shino recovered with a cough, wiping the blood from his nose. He looked down at his ice princess and smiled. She was truly something else. "You're going to be the death of me," Shino said to her as he planted a soft kiss on her lips. "I'm glad you made it all right." "Step away from my daughter, bug boy," yelled a voice from behind them. Turning, they say the demon of the mist walking out from behind one of the trees. He was covered with blood and had a happy look in his eyes. Clearly he had fun taking out the tracking group that was following them. "Or I will let you be my next victim." "It seems that this fight is long overdue," Naruto said as he landed in front of the hulking beast that was Gaara. He was close to becoming fully transformed as his sand was pulsating around him. Naruto's eyes were swirling in the deep mercury pools as he studied Gaara. Gaara was breathing heavy and looked to have been taken for a couple of rounds by Shikamaru. Naruto had to remember to thank the lazy genius for his help. Without him this fight would be completely different right now. "Where is he?" yelled Gaara as blood and phlegm flew from his mouth. Naruto looked down at his feet that were hit by the phlegm and made a disgruntled look. "You'll pay for that," Naruto said as he looked up at Gaara, who was still looking to kill Shikamaru. Naruto bamfed in front of his face, causing Gaara's eyes to widen in shock, and sent a bone-crushing punch towards Gaara's head. Sand reacted quickly, but only slowed the punch down. Gaara was knocked off his feet and flown back towards the stream. He landed on his back with a heavy crash, taking out several smaller trees in the process. Naruto, not wasting time, bamfed above him and dropped a series of frag clones at him. The explosions that followed were heard around Konoha. Naruto looked down at the crater that he created and his jaw dropped. In the middle of the crater was a perfect glass sphere. It was almost beautiful as it shone in the sunlight as the dust slowly cleared. Naruto watched as the glass shattered and out-jumped Gaara, with bloodlust in his eyes. Naruto gulped as he bamfed behind him and tried to punch him again. Gaara caught onto his act and his sand grabbed him from behind. Naruto's eyes widened a bit as he bamfed out of the sand and landed across from Gaara. Gaara launched a series of sand shuriken towards him that caused the young blonde to dodge as best he could. "You will give your blood to mother," Gaara said as he continued his assault of sand shuriken and spikes. "Damn!" Naruto yelled as one of the shuriken struck home. Naruto was hit square in his chest, causing him to be launched off his feet and into a tree. Naruto slowly picked himself out of the tree just in time to see Gaara closing the distance. Naruto's eyes glazed over and he disappeared, causing Gaara to start hunting for him. Naruto watched from a distance as he caught his breath. His chest was torn open, dripping blood from the slashed skin. He spent too much energy getting Kakashi and Guy to help the Hokage. Naruto looked down at his hand that was holding his bleeding chest. Blood slowly seeped through his fingers. His vision was slowly fading, causing the blonde to drop to one knee. He couldn't give up here, he had to stop Gaara. He wouldn't let the monster destroy his village, his home, his precious people. "This is it," Naruto shouted as he stood up, chakra slowly returning into his body. He could feel the healing effect of the fox's power. Smirking to himself, he closed his eyes. "Fuzzy?" Naruto called out. The voice in the back of his head growled with anger. "What did you call me, Uinsu?" The king of the demons started to ask in a calm but angry voice. "Thank you," Naruto said softly aloud, causing the demon fox to be taken aback. "Don't make a habit of getting injured," scolded the fox after recovering from his remark. "Now go and show this joke of demon what it's like to fight the king." "You always know just what to say," Naruto said with a smirk as he opened his eyes. Gaara busted through the trees just then to see Naruto get up from his knee. Naruto smirked down at Gaara then disappeared. "Wha?" Gaara started as he looked down to see a ring of Narutos standing around Gaara. "I was going to save this technique for later," Naruto said from above. "But this grand finale cannot wait. I give you." Naruto bamfed away as the explosion erupted around Gaara. Gaara's body was launched into the air by the giant explosion. As Gaara was flying into the air, multiple explosions followed behind, causing Gaara's body to launch even farther into the air. Gaara's blood-curdling scream could be heard around the elemental nations as he was launched into the air. Naruto looked up as Gaara was reaching the climax of his climb. Gaara's body slowed and gravity was slowly working on bringing his body back down to earth. Naruto sighed as he knew it was time. "And now time for the show," Naruto said as he took a step off the tree and disappeared in a bamf. Shino looked up as he watched the Gaara's body launch through the trees like a rocket. The explosions that followed behind him were a bunch of Narutos that would bamf behind him exploded, causing Gaara to be launched further. He dropped his jaw as Gaara reached a point that he just floated in the air. Then it happened. The event that would have people talking for lifetimes. The legendary Tiger of Konoha put on a show that not only showed the power of the Konoha, but its famed will of fire. It was like watching a fireworks show, a deadly fireworks show. Naruto seemed to be juggling the giant demon with his exploding clones. One after another he appeared everywhere and anywhere. Each time delivering an explosion that would cause Gaara to scream out in pain. Shino looked up at the scene knowing full well that this was but a taste of what the labeled Dead Last can do. Naruto bamfed back and forth, creating web-like pattern leaving Gaara in a cage of explosions. Gaara was beyond pain. He couldn't move as his body was bounced around like a rag doll. Being in the air he was out of his element. With no sand to come to his defense, he wouldn't last long. And Naruto not only knew this, he was banking on it. Naruto appeared above Gaara as he was launched back skywards. Naruto was panting heavily and sweat poured from his face. He was beyond tired. The excessive use of his clones took the toll on his chakra. He had to finish this and it was time for the grand finale. "You tried to hurt my precious people," Naruto yelled as Gaara's body was flying towards him. "For that I cannot let you live. For anyone who tries to kill any of my precious people will die by my hands. For I am the great Tiger of Konoha. Here you meet your end." How can you be so strong? Gaara yelled as 30 clones appeared around Naruto. They all grinned heavily towards the approaching sand beast. Gaara felt something he hadn't felt in years as he stared into the eyes of the true Naruto. The clones all dived towards Gaara and latched themselves onto him. I fight for my loved ones, Naruto said with ragged breath. He smirked as Gaara tried to fight off the clones, causing several to fly off him in many directions. Naruto wasted no time and detonated them, causing a giant flash to appear across the sky, followed by a giant concussion of wind. Trees were blown back and a massive crater was created in the middle of the forest. In the sky, Naruto and what could be called Gaara fell slowly towards the earth. Naruto bamped, using his last bit of chakra to take him to a more improved landing. Still knocked the breath out of him as he bounced off of one of the many toppled trees and rolled into the crater. Looking up, he noticed something happening to Gaara as he fell. The charred remains and glass outer coating seemed to slip off as a giant monster began to appear above him. Naruto fell to a knee as watched Shukaku came to life in front of him. Landing with the grace of a sack of rocks, Shukaku stumbled to his feet. Towering over Naruto and the rest of the land, Shukaku gave a roar of joy. "I'm free," yelled the giant demon. "At long last." "Shit," Naruto said to himself as he watched the giant demon slowly turn towards Naruto. Naruto tried to get up to his feet, but that last attack took everything out of him. Shukaku grinned down at the young blonde. "Now I will feast on your blood, Kyuubi. I will become the king of demons like I should have been long ago," Shukaku said as he breathed in deep. "Air bullet. Oh fuck." Naruto started, but air bullet stuck, launching him in a line drive towards the opposite end of the crater. Naruto bounced to a stop across several trees that were blown down from the blast. Naruto couldn't move. He felt tears sting his eyes as he could see his precious people in his mind. His adoptive family, Shino, Iruka, Kakashi, Guy, Hinata. "Don't tell me you're giving up to this jester," said a voice in the back of his head. "We will begin training once we defeat this bastard. I'm finally convinced." "How wa?" Naruto struggled out as he tried to lean forward. He felt a sharp pain and couldn't believe that he was even moving. Clearly every bone in his chest had to be broken. His breathing was ragged and painful, meaning that his lungs were punctured as well. "You fool!" the Kyuubi yelled as he ran to the bars of his cage, shaking them in the process. "Think. What do you have to live for?" "I have to protect my precious people," Naruto said aloud as he moved himself to his knees with both hands on the ground. "And you're going to let this?" the Kyuubi started as he spat on the floor in disgust. Chakra slowly leaking into the seal from the Kyuubi, causing Naruto to raise his head. He was slowly feeling better. The Kyuubi's chakra was healing him slowly. "This shit stain, kill your precious people." "What of Iruka, Anko, Kakashi, Guy, Shino?" "I won't let him," Naruto yelled as he came to one knee and struggled to his feet. His entire body shaking from both exhaustion and pain. The Kyuubi grinned at his container with respect. "And what of your mate?" Kyuubi said with a smile as Naruto's eyes narrowed and his entire body stopped shaking. "What will you do?" "Kyubison," Naruto said as he stood up completely. He ripped off the tattered remains of his vest, leaving his bloody upper half completely bare. His seal on his stomach glowing brightly under the blood-stained skin and an ungodly amount of chakra erupting from him. The area around him was affected by the chakra, causing small stones to rise and disintegrate around him. Naruto's eyes glowed with the mercury pools with the bright gold ring around it. "It's about time we teach this bastard who the rightful king of demons is." "Yes," Kyuubi yelled as he let loose a full wave of chakra. Naruto smirked as he felt his body numb all the pain he was in. He reached behind him where his trusted Tonfaz sat and pulled out his weapons. The chakra-enhancing Tonfaz seemed to shake with energy as the chakra from the Kyuubi affected it. Naruto jumped into the air, becoming eye level with the giant demon that was shocked by the sudden turn of events. At one moment, Naruto was out for the count, now he was almost supercharged. Naruto's red chakra cloak crackled with energy as he gave the demon a fox grin. "Shukaku of sand," Naruto yelled as he powered his Tonfaz. "I, the Tiger of Konoha, container of the King of Demons, will end you here and now. You imbecile." Shukaku started, but Naruto twirled himself, launching a series of giant wind blades. They shot towards Shukaku, cutting off limbs and severing him at the waist. As Shukaku screamed in pain and slowly pulled himself together, Naruto landed in the middle of the crater. He looked back at the giant gashes in the earth that were several stories deep. They looked like small canyons that just appeared from the giant Kyuubi-enhanced wind blades. Naruto smirked as he watched a small stream appear from one of the craters. Hokage Gigi will kill him for causing this mess, but he had other things to worry about right now. He turned his attention to the Shukaku. The demon was slowly standing back on his new legs and growing another arm from the sand. Naruto stared at the top of the demon's head and noticed a small figure sleeping. "Now you see your target," the Kyuubi said as he released a bit more chakra. "I can't give you any more without killing you. So make this last attack count." "What do I do?" Naruto asked as he dodged a giant claw that was streaking towards him. "Wake the kid," Kyuubi yelled. "Then Shukaku will be forced to go back into the body." "Alright Fuzzy," Naruto yelled as he dodged another clawed arm. Naruto jumped onto the arm and began to race towards the head. Naruto smirked as the sand spikes erupted from the arm trying to kill him. Naruto just dodged around him and closed in on the range. He reached the shoulder and jumped with a fist aimed towards the sleeping red head. Sand erupted from around Shukaku's head engulfing Naruto. A gallant effort indeed. Shukaku taunted as he slowly started to crush Naruto in his sand, causing the blonde to scream out in pain. "Too bad it was all for naught. To think that a demon could fall for the same trap twice," said a voice from the other side of Shukaku's head. Naruto was leaning on Gaara's sleeping head with a kuni in his hand, spinning it nonchalantly. He stopped spinning it and held it like a detonator. He raised his other hand and slapped the red head with all his strength. Gaara's eyes fluttered open as he slowly looked up at Naruto. Naruto turned towards him with a devilish smile. "Bitch, I'm the bomb." The confused Gaara was blasted out of Shukaku, causing the demon to scream in agony as it was slowly placed back into his host. Gaara looked over to his left and noticed Naruto falling with him. They hit the ground at the same time and bounced the same height before coming to a stop only feet apart. Naruto and Gaara locked eyes for a moment before Gaara's eyes began to tear up. "How are you so strong?" Gaara asked as the tears fell, but his face was still stoic of emotion. Naruto just laughed as he slowly got to his feet, causing Gaara's eyes to widen in shock. "Stay away. I told you what would happen," Naruto said with a slight growl. He was holding his side and his chest was still bleeding. "You threaten my village, my home. Stay away," Gaara whispered in fear, tears falling faster. "And then you go and try to threaten my precious people," Naruto said as he fell to his knees but continued to crawl towards Gaara. He slowly pulled out a kuni and raised it. He swung it down quickly, causing Gaara to scream out in pain. Gaara's eyes snapped open and he looked to his left. There staring at him was his own reflection on the kuni. Gaara watched as a slow trickle of blood fell from his cheek, mixing with his tears. "I will give you this one chance, Gaara." "Why?" Gaara asked, still staring at the blood flowing from his cheek. "You have every right to kill me." "Because I believe people can change," Naruto said as he fell to his back. His eyes slowly closing as the pain was returning to his body. "But know this, Gaara." "What?" Gaara asked as he too was passing out. "If you threaten any of my precious people," Naruto said softly. Then with an unearthly growl he continued, "I will kill you." Hinata stared at the unconscious bodies of Naruto and Shikamaru. They were the unsung heroes of Konoha. After the battle, everyone was in uproar. The Hokage had passed away in his fight with his student, causing many to panic in this time of distress. Hinata walked over to Naruto's bed and placed a hand on his cheek. His vitals have improved, but he was still in a coma. He had been out for almost 3 days. "You know he will wake up soon," said a voice from her left. She looked over and noticed Shikamaru wiping his eyes. "How long have I been out?" "Shikamaru," Hinata yelled as she got up. Shikamaru rubbed his ears and gave her a disgruntled look. "Hinata, you can be loud?" Naruto said as he pulled her into his bed, causing her to weep. "Naruto, you're awake," Hinata whispered softly into his chest as tears slowly fell. "You're still loud," Naruto said with a smirk, causing Hinata to giggle. Shikamaru just sighed as he looked over at the door that flew open. In walked in a team of medic nins that started to run test on the two of them. Hinata walked out and was met by the rest of the Rookie 12, sighed Sasuke, who was still injured. Sakura walked up to her and gave her a smile. "Those lazy asses finally awake?" Sakura asked, giving her a grin. Hinata nodded with a smirk. "I would like to give Naruto my thanks," said a voice. Behind the group outside of the room. Hinata turned and gave a stone-cold look towards the owner. Gaara was still injured and being escorted around the hospital by his siblings in a wheelchair. Hinata wanted to retort, but Shino appeared at her side and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You may," Shino said quickly. "But we will be right outside the room." "Was that a threat?" yelled Kankuro as he made a fist. Temari slapped her brother and nodded towards the group. "You guys have done more for my brother than you know," she said softly. "We hope that we can repay the favor, if only in the slightest someday." "Please," Gaara said softly. "I only will be a second." "Fine," Hinata said as she moved away from the door and the Sand siblings went in. "Hello Gaara," Naruto said as he noticed the redhead rolling in. Gaara gave a slight grin and rolled up next to him with Kankuro off to his side. Temari went over towards Shikamaru with a slight blush. She sat down on his bed and started fuss with his blankets and bandages. "Naruto-sama," Gaara whispered, causing Naruto to raise his eyebrows. Naruto was about to retort, but Gaara cut him off. "King of the Demons demands respect, especially amongst his knights. I solemnly swear my undying loyalty to you and your beliefs. I hope to one day to be considered one of your precious people." "Thank you, Gaara-san," Naruto said as he raised a bandaged hand. "You don't have to be so formal about it though. You're full, you know that," Temari whispered as she cleaned his already cleaned wounds. The medic nins literally cleaned them moments before she entered, but he wasn't going to stop the women. "A damned fool. I'm glad you think so highly of me," Shikamaru retorted with a wince as she flicked his wound. She had a slight smirk on her face as she looked over at Gaara, who was smiling and being wheeled out by Kankuro. Temari was torn for a second but decided to stay a bit longer. Naruto rolled over, giving them the most privacy he could in the hospital room. "You." She started with a whisper as she turned towards him. Shikamaru had his eyes closed as she continued to rewrap his shoulder wounds. "You are the most annoying, stupid, lazy. You're rambling," Shikamaru said quickly as he pulled her into his bed, fully causing her to blush fully. "Just say what you want to so I can talk." "What?" Temari asked, completely taken by surprise and at a loss for words. She was currently straddling the younger man whilst laying on his chest. She looked down at him, a full-blown blush on her face. "Oh well," Shikamaru said with a smirk as he pulled her closer and placed his lips on hers. She sighed into the kiss, returning it. She gave a slight moan as he slowly pulled away. The dazed look in her eyes said all he needed to know. "You had your chance. I took the initiative and got what I wanted. And what exactly makes you think I would allow that?" she asked in a serious tone, but her heavy breathing and slight grin gave her away. "I thought it was my reward for beating," Shikamaru said with a smirk as she stood up with an angry look. She got off the bed and crossed her arms. Shikamaru couldn't help himself, so he continued. "Twice now, I believe, but hey, who's counting really?" "You're an ass," she answered him with a shaking of her head. She then gave him a smile and leaned forward. She grinned as she gave him another kiss and brought her lips to her ears. She whispered to him, causing him to shudder a bit. "But know this, rest up, because once you're out, your ass is mine." "That could be a good thing," Shikamaru said as Temari blushed 3 shades of red and walked out. Naruto chuckled and turned over with a pen and paper in hand. "That was great stuff," Naruto said as he tossed his findings to his fellow pervert. Shikamaru smirked to himself before casting a small fire jutsu. "That one stays with us," Shikamaru said with a smirk. "Besides, you wouldn't want me to show you my findings on you and Hinata now, would you?" That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.